In October 2025, one of the most secretive military partnerships in recent history collapsed. The covert arms deal between Russia and North Korea, once described as a strategic partnership for survival, ended in mutual loss and exposure. What began as a lifeline for Moscow's war in Ukraine became a costly disaster for both regimes. By mid-2024, Russia's invasion had reached exhaustion. Sanctions crippled its economy, while Ukraine, aided by Western intelligence, struck deep into Russian territory. Facing empty stockpiles and faltering production, the Kremlin turned to one of its few remaining allies, North Korea. The agreement was simple. Pyongyang would supply artillery shells, rockets, and ammunition. In exchange, Russia would provide fuel, grain, and hard currency. For Kim Jong-un, it was a rare chance to earn foreign exchange and test North Korean weapons under real battle conditions. For Vladimir Putin, it offered temporary relief for depleted front lines without relying solely on Iran or limited domestic output. From the beginning, secrecy surrounded the deal. US and South Korean intelligence noticed unusual shipping activity across the Sea of Japan in early 2025. Satellite imagery showed North Korean cargo vessels moving to Russian ports such as Vladivostok and Vostochny. Many sailed under false flags and falsified manifests. Analysts estimated the trade at about $2.3 billion, expected to continue into 2026. But the plan unraveled quickly. Ukrainian drone strikes targeted Russia's railways, depots, and convoys believed to carry North Korean munitions. One July 2025 strike destroyed a train in the Khabarovsk region, loaded with more than 10,000 shells. The explosion caused heavy Russian losses and wiped out a significant portion of North Korea's own reserve stockpiles. Behind closed doors, tensions grew. Kim demanded compensation for the destroyed shipments, but Moscow refused, claiming payments were already settled through promises of future satellite and space launch technology. Aid that never came. As both sides struggled under sanctions, communication slowed and mistrust deepened. Then came corruption. Russian middlemen handling payments diverted funds through front companies in China and the UAE. Around $400 million vanished into private accounts. When North Korea investigated, the money was gone. The loss crippled Pyongyang's leverage and trust in Moscow. Internal audits exposed more problems. Some of the munitions delivered were defective or misplaced. Russian troops complained that North Korean shells often malfunctioned or exploded prematurely. These failures damaged Pyongyang's credibility as an arms producer. What was meant to demonstrate military reliability instead exposed its weaknesses. By October 2025, the alliance had collapsed in all but name. North Korea's losses, depleted stockpiles, unpaid shipments, and wasted resources exceeded $2 billion. Russia's reliance on low-grade imports revealed the decay of its defense industry. Ukraine took advantage, publishing footage of North Korean shell fragments recovered near Kharkiv. Serial numbers linked them directly to North Korean factories. The evidence undermined both Moscow's and Pyongyang's denials. The international reaction was swift. Countries that had quietly dealt with North Korea, including Myanmar and Syria, distanced themselves to avoid sanctions. Russia's propaganda outlets tried to rebrand the transfers as humanitarian support, but the narrative failed. Even within Russia, analysts called the deal a humiliation that underscored Moscow's desperation. Satellite data soon confirmed the decline. Cargo movement between Russia's Primorsky Krai and North Korea's Chongjin port fell sharply. Intercepted Russian communications referred to missing consignments and unfulfilled deliveries. The flow had stopped. The turning point came after a Ukrainian strike near Belgorod exposed fragments from North Korea's KN-09 rocket systems. The United Nations convened an emergency session. Even China, normally Pyongyang's defender, avoided public support. Inside North Korea, the fallout was immediate. The Second Economic Committee, responsible for arms exports, faced an investigation. Several senior officials were detained for economic mismanagement, a euphemism for corruption or political failure. Yet the losses could not be recovered. Russia's promised technology transfers never arrived, and much of the money had been stolen. In Moscow, the image of strength collapsed. State media had portrayed the alliance as proof that Russia was not isolated, but reports of missing payments and defective weapons contradicted that message. Behind the scenes, the defense sector was struggling under sanctions and battlefield attrition. Drone and missile production lagged far behind demand, forcing Russia to depend on outside suppliers. The United States and its allies exploited the exposure. Declassified satellite imagery showed several North Korean cargo ships, the Ryu Myong-7, Ambyon-1, and Chongjin Star, vanishing in the Sea of Japan between April and June 2025. Some were likely intercepted or sabotaged. Ukraine's intelligence agency tracked Russian convoys moving North Korean ammunition across Siberia. Drone footage later confirmed multiple strikes destroying those shipments. The financial consequences in Pyongyang were severe. Newly expanded arms factories in Hamhung and Pyeongtaek shut down after Russian payments ceased. Thousands of workers lost wages. Sanctions from the United States, the European Union, and Japan further limited North Korea's access to foreign currency. Inflation rose and food rationing returned, even in the capital. Attempts to renegotiate failed. Talks in Vladivostok ended with mutual accusations. Moscow blamed poor quality arms. Pyongyang accused Russia of default. The partnership, once presented as strategic solidarity, had become a political liability for both sides. Ukraine and its allies turned the diplomatic fallout into an advantage. European leaders called the failed alliance a marriage of desperation, proof of Russia's declining capacity. In Washington, defense officials described it as evidence that Putin's war effort relied on unsustainable foreign aid. On the battlefield, the effects were visible. With North Korean supplies gone, Russian artillery fire dropped by more than half along key fronts, such as Avdiivka and Kreminna. Ukrainian counterattacks became stronger, supported by new European aid packages. In early October, Ukraine's cyber units infiltrated a Russian logistics database, listing all foreign-sourced weapons since mid-2024. It included shipments from North Korea, Iran, and various private brokers. When Kyiv released portions of the data, international reaction was swift. The European Parliament condemned Russia and North Korea for violating arms embargoes. Japan expanded naval patrols in the Sea of Japan, and South Korea increased maritime surveillance. Washington praised Ukraine's revelations as a major act of transparency in wartime intelligence. Inside Russia, the exposure deepened frustration. Families of conscripts demanded accountability as defense spending consumed nearly half the national budget. Economic growth kept falling. North Korea faced a parallel decline. Factories lacked materials like explosives and precision tools once promised by Moscow. Production of shells and missiles plummeted. African and Middle Eastern states quietly suspended planned arms purchases to avoid sanctions. New intelligence reports from the European Union and the United States revealed falsified shipping documents marking ammunition as fertilizer and industrial goods. The United Nations imposed new sanctions on North Korean entities involved in the transfers. Inflation soared, and rationing tightened. Analysts in Seoul reported that several officials from North Korea's munitions industry department were executed for economic sabotage. Kim Jong-un made public appearances vowing to strengthen self-reliance, but the damage was irreversible. Leaked financial data also traced Russian payments through shell companies in Dubai, Hong Kong, and Vladivostok that laundered funds via cryptocurrency exchanges. Moscow dismissed the findings as disinformation, but independent verification confirmed the evidence. Even China, wary of fallout, issued a cautious statement urging stability and adherence to international norms. As Ukraine advanced, the meaning of the failed deal became clear. A Ukrainian analyst summarized it simply: when North Korea's shipments stopped, Russia's guns went silent. Western governments agreed. The United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense said Russia's dependence on North Korean arms revealed the decline of its defense industry, while Pyongyang's losses proved the risk of relying on a weakened power. By late October 2025, the picture was complete. Russia's outreach had brought deeper isolation and humiliation. North Korea's gamble cost it over $2 billion and left its economy weaker than before. For Ukraine, the outcome was both strategic and symbolic. Each intercepted shipment and leaked manifest underscored Russia's exhaustion. The collapse of the Russia-North Korea alliance became a case study in desperation disguised as cooperation. What began as a covert exchange of weapons and promises ended as a global example of how corruption and secrecy destroy fragile alliances. In the end, Ukraine's endurance did more than resist invasion. It exposed the fragility of the systems that sought to defeat it, and showed that power built on secrecy cannot survive the weight of exposure.